Insurance isn't one size fits all, and shopping for it shouldn't feel like squeezing into something that just doesn't fit. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they show you options that fit your budget. Enough hunting for discounts, trying to calculate rates, and tinkering with coverages. Maybe you're picking out your very first policy, or maybe you're just looking for something that works better for you and your family. Either way, they make it simple to see your options. No guesswork, no surprises. Ready to see how easy and fun shopping for car insurance can be? Visit Progressive.com and give the Name Your Price tool a try. Take the stress out of shopping and find coverage that fits your life, on your terms. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
So hello, everyone, and welcome to Vulgar History, feminist women's history comedy podcast. And if you're a fan of feminist women's history comedy podcasts, I know you know my guest, which is Alicia from Trashy Royals and from Trashy Divorces. So it's a trashy collab, trashy vulgar times. Alicia, welcome.
Oh my gosh, Anne, I'm so thrilled to be here to talk about one of my favorite gals and to get vulgar about it because, man, I've got a lot to say.
Yeah, exactly. So Alicia and we recorded together a bit ago when I was promoting my book, Rebel of the Regency. And we had such a good time. We were both like, let's do this again. And I remember you were like, yeah, I can come on. I can talk about Zelda Fitzgerald. Like you just threw out that name or I'm like, oh, she's got feelings. She's got emotions. Like this is the story of her heart. And I have to have you on to talk about this.
I am Zelda obsessed. And it might be because we're both Leo girls from Alabama. I'm not exactly sure why I have been enamored, obsessed, knocked over by Zelda my entire life. I love her story. I hate her husband. I'm glad we can cuss over here because You might know her husband is F. Scott Fitzgerald, but my personal name for her husband is Fuck Off Scott Fitzgerald. There's never been a bigger wanker who's ever lived in the history of Earth. I've got a lot of love feelings towards her and a lot of very anti-love feelings towards Scott.
Yeah, and this is a safe space for you to please unleash all of your feelings, positive for her, negative for him.
Probably on a feminist comedy podcast, you're not going to get a lot of backlash about Scott Fitzgerald on this. I don't think he's really the fan favorite for this crowd.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of defenders, but also I love the Alabama connection. So I feel like you're going to bring I'm here in Canada, I don't know the context of a lot of American history. So I think you're going to come in with some facts with your lovely accent. I can imagine that's what Zelda sounded like too.
We're going to take you on down to Dixie today, Anne. How does that sound?
Amazing. Amazing. So I know you've come fully prepared. So Zelda, tell us the story of Zelda.
Zelda Sayer, just magical, magical Leo girl. Let's go ahead and get her set up and talk about her until we intersect Scott Fitzgerald. Zelda was born in Montgomery, Alabama, July 24th, 1900. Making her a Leo, Montgomery, Alabama is sort of the cradle of the South. She is a turn-of-the-century baby, but a turn-of-the-century baby in a South that's a little bit far behind. So let me tell you about Zelda's mom and pops. Her daddy, Anthony Dickerson Sayre, he worked as a lawyer. He was a representative within the Alabama state legislature. He was a state senator, a city judge, as well as a justice on the Supreme Court of Alabama. So Zelda's father is kind of a big deal, KOABD in Alabama politics. But you can't stop there. Zelda's great uncle and grandfather also served in the United States Senate. Zelda's dad is described as unshakable. And when we talk about Montgomery, cradle of the South South thinks they won the Civil War.
Well, and this is like just after the Civil War. Like she's born 1900. This is just like Civil War still in recent memory for her dad, for her grandparents. Like,
Oh boy,
yeah.
and they're still so mad about it. So Zelda's dad will author this thing called the Sayre election law, which will prohibit blacks from voting in Alabama until the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. These are not necessarily very progressive people, the family that Zelda's come from, but the family Zelda's come from in Montgomery is just like every other family, and they feel the same way. I don't know if I'd be thrilled if my father had a law that restricted people from voting on the roster for 65 years. But again, these are not people who like to think the South lost the Civil War. We're living in a very veiled sort of sleepy, it's going to always be our way in the South, whether you like it or not, even though we know it's not going to be. Montgomery is known as the cradle of the Confederacy. It's a very insular world, okay? So Zelda's mom, oh boy, she's a little bit more extra. So if dad is very staid, he's not going to say a crab pot, but he's not like Mr. Lovable. Zelda's going to get most of the love from her mom. And when we talk about Zelda's mom, her own dream growing up, she wanted to be an actress. Huzzah! She's exuberant. She's so ready for something big, but all those relatives, mom's father and all of her relatives involved in politics are like, it is absolutely impossible for us to have an actress in the family. Absolutely not. So Zelda's mom does marry Zelda's dad. Romance, maybe. Political alliances, possibly. But here Zelda's mom is doomed, right, to leave her big life that she wants on the stage and instead forced to be kind of a sensible grown up, being a wife and a mother and having multiple children and being the judge's wife and all that. So there is a little bit with Zelda, I think, being the youngest child, that she gets a bit of her mother's deferred dream. Does that make sense?
It does. And I want to say she also has a cool ass name, which is Zelda.
Zelda was named after a character. This is not the polite term, but it is the way colloquially it was referred to then. Zelda's mom names her Zelda because she had read a book where there was a gypsy named Zelda in the book. And mom was just super taken by that name. So mom and dad, oh boy, here comes little Zelda. She's got 5 older siblings, 4 sisters, 1 brother. So Zelda comes in as the baby of the family, significantly later in her mother's let's have babies cycle. Many, many, many years after. So the Sears sort of have 4 kids on one side of the age gap, and here comes Zelda a decade plus later.
A little surprise, I would think.
A little surprise, but it makes Zelda the baby. She's literally called baby her whole life in her family.
Okay, yeah.
She's the youngest. She is the most spoiled, the most doted upon. And I want to set the stage here really that Zelda is Southern royalty. She's in the cradle of the Confederacy. She has a big deal family, and it's a very tiny town. Not a lot, I mean, comparatively towards some other cities in the US at that time, not a lot happening in Montgomery. She grows up in this tiny, tiny, tiny little bubble, doted upon, loved upon by her mom, as well as all of her older siblings. And I guess to the extent her father is capable of love, she's loved by him too. Now I'm going to go ahead and pitch myself for another future episode if you haven't done it, because I want to talk about one of Zelda's running buddies when she's growing up in Montgomery, Tallulah Bankhead.
Okay, she's the Hollywood actress, yeah?
Tallulah Bankhead, Hollywood actress, the most vulgar of all vulgar women. She is an inspiration to all of us everywhere. But Tallulah Bankhead is also from Montgomery. So you've got Zelda. Tallulah's a little bit older than Zelda. Enough to where Zelda growing up, being a teenager, Tallulah has already gone to New York City, the greatest city in the world, to make it, quote unquote. So Tallulah's a little older, but Zelda is always looking at Tallulah as a little bit of inspiration.
Like, she got out of here. She's doing something. Like, her mom didn't get to be an actress. Tallulah is doing it. So Zelda can see, like, I don't want to be a wife and a mom. I want to do something great. And here's someone from my town who did it.
All Zelda wants to do is GTFO, right? She's fine. Growing up, she's not that great in school. She's passable, but she wants to go have fun with her friends. And she wears jeans and she's a tomboy, but she also will escape off and smoke cigarettes. And she likes to drink. Think about being born in 1900. You are coming right up to that flapper era in your teenage years. So Zelda in town is wild and loose and fast, and she's the talk of the town. And think about when you live in a tiny town like Montgomery, there's not a whole lot of news. So you've got the tiny column which talks about which of these girls went to whose houses that day on a particular day for tea. And it's written up, so-and-so hosted the blah, blah, blah girls of the so-and-so. I need to let you know, as a teenager, as a teenager, Zelda's got the boom, boom, pow. Her mom will make her costumes. Zelda loves to dance. She's loved to dance her entire life. So she is dancing in soirees, parties. Again, tiny town. You kind of have to make your own entertainment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
As Zelda is growing up, and this happens a little earlier because Zelda is not going to go to college. So think about Zelda in her teenage years, small town, small state, Alabama. She is such a big deal and is such a sought after belle Canadian girl. Do you know the term belle? B-E-L-L-E?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Scarlett O'Hara. I know. Yeah.
Okay. So she is such a belle at the time. She's a big deal. There is a whole fraternity that is formed at Auburn University named Zeta Sigma. And the only way you could get in was to have had a date with Zelda Sayre.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Whole fraternity named after her. But
Yeah.
Zelda's not just hanging at Auburn University. She's going across state lines. She's got a lot of dates at Georgia Tech as well. So you really have the baby of a family, hot two-trot, boom, boom, pow, knock out good looking, dating and getting to know every important young bachelor in the South. Zelda Sayre's the catch of the South. Hot stuff. She's living her best life, right? In a world that truly is changing by the minute. Here, by the time we bring Zelda into her teenage years, World War I is happening. Oh boy, and Zelda, almost the flapper age. She's a girl, she's got big dreams and big ambitions. And now Zelda, about 17, sees her bestie from Montgomery, Tallulah, older, breaking out into something big. So, what can Zelda do? Oh, one other fun quote here, just to prove kind of how legendary it is. Zelda being recalled, it is said when Zelda Sayre came to dances, the Birmingham girls just went on home. Like, she's incomparable. So her rep in Montgomery, wild. She, causes a scandal when they go in her hometown to the diving pond. It's not exactly a swimming pool, but they have a pond, a creek, where everybody will go swim. She will get a nude bathing suit. So she's covered, but she doesn't look covered. This gets written up. She smokes, she drinks, she knows how to have fun. Zelda, from a very early age, with her Leo sun and Leo rising sign, loves to flaunt convention. She may not be great in school, but she's sharp as a tack. She's creative. She's gorgeous. She's rebellious. And maybe something within her mother's dream deferred, Zelda does have the heart of an actress. So here we have Zelda, sweet summer child Zelda, 1917, 1918, living her best life. Should we enter in fuck off Scott now? Because
I was saying that the change in your vocal quality, I'm just like, we're having such a nice time. She's doing so well. Like this part of the story only lasts so long.
What a different life Zelda Fitzgerald would have led had she never run into that asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Not happy about it. Let's talk about Scott. I'm sorry. I'm not mad about any part of Scott until he gets to be about 16, but here we go. So F. Scott Fitzgerald, Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. He's an Irish Catholic boy from St. Paul, Minnesota. He was born September 24th, 1896. He's a Libra. Zelda, 4 years younger than Scott. So there's a little bit of age disparity there. Scott, oh boy, has a dad. His dad is kind of dapper. He likes to dress the part, but he's absolute shit at business. So dad is sort of a failure. And I think there's something key in understanding how Zelda and Scott's dynamic works in the future, because Scott's mother is the actual enforcer of the family. His mother's family is very affluent, but because mom married such a crap at business dad, the thing that is key about Scott Fitzgerald that you want to know, he grows up in the worst house on the best block in town.
Okay.
So he's always kind of outside looking in.
This is like, and this man later writes The Great Gatsby. Okay. Like that's...
The disparity here, Scott is always on the outside looking in. He's yearning for something different. He wants to be in that crew, but doesn't know how to get in the building. And Zelda has no idea a building exists. She's always been in the building, right? Like the difference between the two of them and their psyches really immeasurable, which is going to cause some of this conflict. Anyway, back to Scott. For his mom and dad to actually make it, his mother is always borrowing money from her family just to stay afloat. But because mom is borrowing money, she'll get Scott into fancy schools, the best schools. But again, you have that same repetition. Scott is always the poorest kid around kids with all kinds of money and privilege. He's always the underdog and will always perceive himself to be the underdog in this sitch, but helpfully, I guess, it does influence much of his writing because he's always got that yearning. He's the observer. He can write in that specific way. When Scott is about 15, his 1908, his dad is fired from the only job he's really had, and then dad just sort of bails. He's a failure for the rest of his natural life, and dad just hands it over to mom to make it happen financially, socially, emotionally. Everything gets put on mom to support the family and Scott. Poor little sad, outside looking in. It is during these years that Scott finds his talent, which is writing. And he's super talented, so promising. He's a poet and he knows it, right? In the future, he's going to steal a lot from Zelda, but when Scott begins his writing career, he is dedicated to the task. His perseverance is unstoppable. He is lousy with talent and drive. So you add those two, he really does have the combination of something. Also kind of solitary kid, right? He's going to pour his attention, love, focus into writing. He will write and rewrite and do multiple drafts over and over. And he is determined to get every word correct in what he is writing. And like as a writer, you can respect that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do think there's a point that's just terribly sad that Scott Fitzgerald in his lifetime before his death, he's never a success. He will never know the success that he becomes because, well, he dies too early, sort of just like his dad, right? In the alcoholic, I die at 41. But Scott is determined as a teenager not to be anything like his father. And if he's got that one skill, which is writing, he wants to gain control over that, which he does, to not be a failure like his father. And here, well, Scott's psychosis begins.
You mentioned he's okay up until he's 16, so I feel like we're hitting that point. Yeah, this is where...
Well, teenager, college, like he really is carrying around a lot of deep psychosis, which you feel bad for. But that outside looking in sort of thing is key to him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and get Scott to college. 1913, he's accepted into Princeton. And here Scott really has elaborate fantasies of being at that time in the Ivies, what is called the BMOC, the big man on campus, right? Scott is scrawny. I need to tell you that. He's 5'8". He's slight. He's very, very tiny, but that doesn't stop him from trying out for football. All right, whatevs. Football, not exactly going to happen, but he will write for the literary magazine at Princeton, as well as join the Triangle Club. Princeton at that time was all men, and the Triangle Club is a theatrical society. But Scott, because he is smaller and slight, he is the best looking when they dress him in drag to play female roles.
Okay, yeah.
He looks fantastic in drag, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
There's something nice. I'm doing my best here to present both sides, but that's nice. I guess he looks good in drag. Scott begins his drinking here in a significant way. So where he has been so dedicated to his writing, he's a daily diarist. He loves letters. He's all about the words. But here in college, like a lot of us, you turn on to the drink, right? So all the focus and all the drive that Scott has had sort of slacks off here. He's spending a lot more time drinking than, well, studying, ending up with him on the academic probation type of list. Another thing I want to set in our stage here about Scott. Scott does write letters. He is a daily diarist. He has a very much control thing happening. And the thing you're going to see about Scott all the way through this story is when he begins to feel internally that he is losing control of the situation, instead of, I don't know, kumbaya, taking some time, touching grass, he will instead flip the script to control others. It's never about himself. The more he's losing himself, the more control he's trying to gain over anyone. This starts early. Scott will write a letter to his younger sister. He's like 17. She's in her teenage years, about how to get a man. If you want to get a man, honey, this is what you have to do. And essentially that advice comes down to diminishing yourself to get the man. He writes mean letters. But Scott, because he can write, and that's the thing he can do, he likes to use the words to try to get the girls. I've done a whole separate thing about these gals. They're called the Big Four. Ginevra King is one of the Big Four. They were legendary in a certain particular circle in the North. Scott at Princeton is going to meet this top girl, Ginevra King, in his sophomore year. And they're going to date for a little bit of time, but Ginevra's father looks at Scott like, you are nothing. You are in no way suitable to marry my daughter. Welcome to Gatsby here. Seriously, here's your beginning subplot for Gatsby, because everybody thinks like, oh, maybe Zelda is the, no, it's Ginevra King who is Daisy in Gatsby. Ginevra's dad tells Scott, rich girls don't marry poor boys. So here you have this reinforcement again of the outside looking in. He's never going to be good enough. He's never going to attain to that level. He wants to, but Ginevra King here really is his golden girl fantasy. Ginevra King is the girl that all the boys wanted, but no one could ever possess. And I'm going to let you know that Scott is going to transfer his Ginevra King manic pixie dream girl fantasy right on over to Zelda Sayre. You see it coming, right? Transference. Scott is going to, because of the whole academic probation thing, withdraw his junior year because he's essentially flunked out and he's failed at love with Ginevra. So what's a boy to do at this time, 1917? You're going to enroll. You're going to enlist to fight in World War I. And here, Scott is going to gussy it on up and head on off to boot camp. Scott, where he's going to end up, who knows? But he can write, and he's going to boot camp for the war, kind of at a late entry stage here in 1917. In boot camp, June of 1918, Scott Fitzgerald, second lieutenant, is going to show up at Camp Sheridan in Montgomery, Alabama. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was like, the whole story, like his story is so northern U.S. and she's so southern. I'm just like, how are these two going to even meet each other? But boot camp. Yep. Okay.
He's at boot camp. He supplies himself with his own Brooks Brothers uniform, so he looks good. He looks fantastic when he shows up for boot camp. And because, oh my God, nothing happens in Montgomery, right? So what? We have a boot camp that's actively training men. Fantastic. Servicemen, soldiers, let's throw a dance. Let's throw a fete. Let's throw a party. So you've got Montgomery and all the girls there entertaining these boot camp enlisted men. So on one fateful night.
Sorry, I'm just picturing Zelda. I'm just like all these like young men coming, like Zelda. This is like Zelda Paradise. This is just like, oh, hey, guess what? Who's coming? Well, I don't know, 200 hot young men.
Zelda Paradise isn't even really boot camp. Zelda Paradise is college boys, right? She wants out. She's going to Atlanta. She's going to Auburn. She's going to Montgomery, right? She's all kinds of other places, but okay, we have to entertain the troops. Fine. So they'll throw these dances for stationed military men because the whole town is making sure they're dedicated. We're Southern. What can I get you to drink, right? We're very hospitable people. They want to make sure all the boys are entertained before they head off for war. And remember Zelda dances and all the local things. She featured dancer. So there is a night, oh boy, the two inevitably Scott sees Zelda in her little dancing outfit at this entertainment thing, and Scott is smitten kitten. He sees Zelda and he is in love. All the outside looking in, all of his words, all of the long lost thwarted love with Ginevra. He sees Zelda and his whole manic pixie dream girl manifestation is reborn, and it has one focus, and her name is Zelda Sayre. I don't know if Zelda feels exactly the same way about him. Is it a love story? Baby, say yes. If I was Zelda, I probably would have said no. She doesn't know, though, because she's young and exuberant and wants a bigger life, and she's going to get it. I think sometimes to her detriment in this story. How long have we gone, Anne? Let's go ahead, and if we can, just take a breath here. Everybody go get a new cup of tea, pour a new beverage, take a little bathroom break. We're going to come back and come back to Scott's new Golden Girl obsession and the Gold Dust twins.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
Plan B is a backup birth control option that's there for you when things don't go according to plan. It specifically works after unprotected sex and before pregnancy occurs by temporarily delaying ovulation. Plan B is available nationwide at all major retailers and through delivery apps like DoorDash. No ID, prescription, or age requirement. It's the #1 OBGYN recommended brand of emergency contraception, and it won't impact your future fertility. That's freedom to be. Use as directed.
And we're back. We're back with Zelda F. Scott. Fuck you, Scott. But not at this point. I feel like they're meeting and she doesn't know that this is going to be terrible. He doesn't know that this is not going to work out. They're young and they're hot. Well, she is. And they hit it off. Honestly, I'm surprised they hit it off.
Not
they
at all.
don't? Okay, good.
No, okay. So Zelda, big deal. Biggest deal ever in the South. Belle of the South. Here comes Scott in his Brooks Brothers uniform. And I mean, Scott is slight, but he is handsome. He's dashing. They are called, when they do get together, the Gold Dust Twins because they look so much alike.
Oh,
they both have very fair hair, blonde hair. Their builds are similar. They are sort of simpatico in a physical mirror representative of each other. Scott comes into town. He's head over heels about Zelda. He is going to, and this is important to note, begin writing her letters about, it's so creepy. She's the princess in the tower. So he idolizes her. She's very much put on a pedestal, but that princess in the tower lingo doesn't begin with Zelda. It begins with Ginevra King.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ginevra King is the original princess in the tower. So we really have just transferred. I don't know if y'all have ever done that in relationships. Like you got a lot of feelings for one person and that one person isn't there. So you try to recreate the thing with another person that's never going to happen. Scott, Zelda on the throne. Ginevra trying to recreate that thing. At this point in boot camp, Scott will begin his writing of This Side of Paradise. Boot camp's done. He's just kind of waiting to be shipped off. But then, oh no, the war ends and there's nowhere to be shipped to. So Scott is a little mad. He will propose to Zelda. Zelda's seeing 19 other guys a week. Scott is like not on the priority list. But he's going to propose to Zelda before he moves back to New York to get a job. This Side of Paradise during this time, just so you know, was rejected twice by Scribners. He's going to get a legit job at an ad agency. He hates it. He'll continue writing This Side of Paradise at night. But Scott, before he goes, proposes to Zelda. Zelda's like, sure, fine, Scott, I'll marry you. But the thing you need to know in the next sentence of that is probably Zelda saying, I have 4 other fiancés as well as a dozen pins from all kinds of other frat boys all around the South. Also, as the flight airline guys, as the flight pilots are learning how to fly for the war over at boot camp, they fly over my house every day and dip their wings just because they love me. I mean, charm and charisma. Zelda is loaded. So she says yes to Scott, but it's not actually a real yes because she has a shit ton of other boyfriends.
Yeah.
Manipulating them all, handling them all, which is fine. She's young. She's not ready to say yes to anybody really yet. She just likes being the belle of the ball. So Scott, writing her all these desperate letters, Princess in the Tower, I'd love to see your sweet face again, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Zelda one day, I think, honestly wants to dip on Scott. She's just, I'm not going to say annoyed, but she's playing him like she's playing every other guy around. But there is one point I think she really does want to dip. And as we get to the rankings at the end, this is probably, because Leos aren't really schemy. They're loyal. They love you. If you upset a Leo, they're probably going to drop you, but I don't really see them as manipulative, so to speak. But Zelda here is like, man, maybe I don't like Scott. Maybe I want to play games. So she will write a letter to Scott, kind of breaking it off, but putting in the fraternity pin of the other letter that she's written to the other guy she's breaking it off from. So Scott gets this letter like, what? You're returning a pin that's not even mine. How many men are you going with? Number one. But Zelda writes Scott, and she's like, listen, man, you're making $35 a week. And I'm not sure if you've heard what a big fucking deal I am here. So it's pretty clear to me, Scott. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean you to get like hung up on me, but I think I can do better than you, Scott. Zelda's being straight up. She's being honest. Like, this is not what I want. I think I can do better. Scott gets this devastating news when Zelda breaks their loose engagement in June 1919. Scott is crushed. He's devastated. His princess in the tower has rejected him. So Scott is going to bail out of New York City to head home, move home to St. Paul, Minnesota, and will write for 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, to finish this side of paradise. So he can be a published author and Zelda will love him. He has to borrow money for all of his pencils, typing supplies, his cigarettes. This Side of Paradise, just for my literature lovers, is a novel that is loosely constructed about his Princeton college days. Because right as he's going through this, he is looking at this new emerging generation of flappers and philosophers. The new young hip kids, the generation that is changing here. 1920s coming on. Turns out all those rewrites, all that work on This Side of Paradise works out for Scott Fitzgerald. His book is going to be published. And he can't even wait to write Zelda, Princess in the Tower. My book's going to be published. Look at me. I'm a success. Now you can marry me. Fantastic. And Zelda at this point does plead with her family. None of her family think this is a good idea. Like Scott even proposed when he was down like in front of her family. It's treacherous. It's treacherous. But Zelda, I guess somehow looking at how much work Scott has done, and I also can get the fuck out of Montgomery.
Yeah.
Sure, Scott, let's go ahead and get married. This all happens pretty fast.
Okay, I want to sit in this moment for a second because Zelda, I guess we know she's an impetuous person generally. Yes. And I wonder if she's got so many suitors, but something what is it about Scott? Is it the fact that he's got this artistic career and that's kind of the direction she wants to head in? She wants to get out of town. He's from the north. She knows that she can leave. Why would she have said yes at this point when she has 25 other options every day?
Scott is yes and yes and yes to all of that. Yeah. Also, once she says yes, Zelda knows she's hopping a train to New York City and getting out of Montgomery.
Yeah.
I can go where Tallulah's been. I can, New York City, 1920s. Oh my God, everything is happening. It's theater and music and jazz and everything amazing and everything a girl from a tiny, tiny, tiny ass small town has dreamed about her whole life. This all happens pretty quick. As soon as Scott gets the note that his book is going to be published, he writes to Zelda, now we can get married. I've made something for myself. Zelda's like, New York City. I mean, there's something about Scott that she likes. And think about, gosh, she's so young. And he's got the words that can flatter her. He's not a dopey Southern boy who is like, he's different, maybe a little bit exotic. Her family's totally against it, but March 26, 1920, This Side of Paradise is released. It sells out on the first day. That is how many books they did not print, but also the demand for this, like, what's the new dawn, new day, new decade? This Side of Paradise is risque for the time because it's exposing what young people in the day are doing. We have petting parties. We kiss. We drink a lot. We smoke a lot. It's this novel of the new generation. Seriously, written about Ginevra King, transferred over to Zelda in that thing. But Scott knows that he's getting published. He knows the release date. He will repropose to Zelda. Zelda, God bless her, says yes. This all happens pretty fast. This Side of Paradise gets released. Scott's 23. He's an instant celebrity. Instant celebrity. Released March 26th. Scott goes down to St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City and will arrange for him and Zelda to marry on April 3rd, 2 weeks after the book is published. This is how fast it happens. Zelda is going to hop on a train in Montgomery in her Alabama clothes, Alabama style, Alabama voice, Alabama hair. She's a Southern girl. And how exciting. She takes the train to New York to get married because she thinks she's awesome, and she arrives and it's pretty much whisked off to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Fun fact here. Because Zelda is not Catholic, they cannot marry in the rectory. They cannot marry in the church of the cathedral. But there is one little side room that I did get to go into when I was in New York City.
Yes.
It's in the church. St. Patrick's Cathedral is enormous. But there is this one tiny, tiny side chapel that Scott and Zelda did get married in. But are you ready for the dick move by Scott?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Part of Zelda's family is absolutely not participating in this, but she does have some family who wants to participate. Her sisters want to be there. But Zelda shows, and Scott's like, all right, priest, let's get it on. I want to get married to her so we can be done with this, and begins the ceremony before her family shows up.
Scott. Okay.
Oh, Zelda's sister Rosalind, who does show up and catches like the tail end of this wedding, is like, hey, congratulations. Thanks, Scott, for not waiting for us at all and really beginning this relationship on a good foot. How about I take everyone here to celebrate out to lunch? And Scott's like, fuck that. We're going to the Biltmore to party all night. This sort of plants for Rosalind, Zelda's sister, and as she conveys it through the rest of the family, the fuck off, Scott. Scott's done with Zelda's family pretty much from the day they get married. You ready for the second shitty thing Scott does?
Oh, God. Okay. Bring it. Yep.
Like, next thing, he is going to ask one of his, I'm saying girlfriend, she's not a romantic interest, but a girl, a lady, to take Zelda shopping for new clothes because everything she has is fucking shit. She can't be my wife and look like this. She looks like a country hick from Alabama. We're just building up the hate for Scott. You with me so far?
I am. And it's like she, as you described, like she grew up and she was the star of Montgomery, Alabama. Like she was, everything she did was just like everyone loved her. And then to be dragged off to this place where suddenly she's not in her element, like she's talking different from everybody, she's dressing different, the climate is different. And instead of like helping her acclimate to this, he's just like, everything you're doing is wrong.
He is the writer, and he is handing Zelda a script for what she needs to be to him. Have you ever been to New York City?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you imagine being from a tiny spit place of a town in 1920 and walking into New York City?
No, like it's
mind-blowing.
I cannot imagine. And then for him to be like, here's how you need to dress, here's what you need to do. It's like, how would you know that, Scott? Like, you're from Minneapolis or whatever.
He
like,
loves to control people, and he's all into the feminine. He's been trying to dress his sister and tell, again, control.
Oh, that's right. And he went in drag, so he knows how to dress. Yeah.
Correct. So Zelda, I don't think is like, she's pretty nonplussed here. She's a Southern girl walking in married to New York City in April of 1920 with this new script, this new role that Scott has handed to her. And remember, he is the king of flapper philosopher literature. So it's extravagance. Zelda is now the queen of the flappers worldwide. And Scott is known as king of the jazz age. Their antics beginning in New York City, they are legendary. So where Zelda has, bless her, seen clippings from New York and all those papers about what her friend Tallulah Bankhead has been doing, because Tallulah's racy, right? Like Tallulah's got no shits to give. Here's Zelda. She dances on tables at the Waldorf. They dance in fountains. Any fountain they can find, and they're always like dancing in a fountain. Super excited to see the fountain in front of the plaza. They actually get kicked out of the plaza. They're that much trouble. They're written up everywhere. They've done cartwheels in hotel lobbies. They ride on top of taxi cabs down Fifth Avenue on the weekend nights. Like they go teen wolfing, right? Like they're living it up in New York City. And in this script, every day has to be more outrageous than the day that came before it. They're both performers, sort of performing in their own way. And they look the part and they act the part. And these characters are the characters they're playing, and they live them on stage, high and large. No party is complete at that time without Zelda and Scott there. They are the hot couple in New York City. Always partying, always doing the thing, which does give them a lot of time to drink.
I was going to say, this sounds like we already know that he's like been leaning on alcohol. Zelda, I don't know what her relationship is at this point, but what you're describing, I feel like there's a lot of alcohol and there's a lot of cocaine involved in like fueling the energy to be able to stay up all night and do all these antics.
Alcohol. I want to switch out one thing. I said Gold Dust Twins. I should have said in that part, Little Twin Stars.
Twin Stars.
They are little twin stars. Gold Dust Twins technically are these two other cats, guys that Zelda grew up in Alabama with. But here's Scott and Zelda. Oh my God. They really are both head over heels. Zelda's thrilled to be here. Living a life she never imagined.
Well, it's kind of that we know because of how things are going to go, where this is headed, but like that new relationship energy. She's in her early 20s and it's just like, this is amazing. She's out of her small town, like that honeymoon phase, of just like the excitement of it all. Yeah.
Oh boy, do they honeymoon. And Zelda has been propped up princess in a tower by Scott for so long, and now they're finally together. They're married, so honeymoon on fire. But here they really are inseparable. They're collaborators. Little twin stars. Scott trusts Zelda with everything, and Zelda trusts Scott. This is her golden girl dream come true. They're on the top of their game, save the drinking an outrageous amount of alcohol, but they're young and you can kind of do that then. Scott is still wanting to control things. And we're on the countdown to what I have termed in my own heart the switch. The switch. And remember, when Scott loses control, all he wants to do is gain control over other people.
Yeah.
So Scott's writing, doing some productive things, king of the jazz age. And because Zelda's getting known on her own, she has been asked as Mrs. Fitzgerald to give a review of his book to be published. In this particular review, Zelda, is a little bit brutal. Maybe this is the first knife towards Scott, but Zelda is no fool. So in this particular review, Zelda reviews this book from Mrs. Fitzgerald. It seems to me that on one page, I recognized a portion of an old diary of mine, which mysteriously disappeared shortly after my marriage, and also scraps of letters, which, though considerably edited, sound to me vaguely familiar. In fact, Mr. Fitzgerald, I believe that's how he spells his name, seems to believe that plagiarism begins at home.
This is a published review by her of his book.
100%.
Yeah.
So, she's becoming so legendary, women's magazines are reaching out. Like that one quote was fire. The publishing world is like, oh, this Zelda is pretty sassy. So women's magazines reach out like, hey, would you like to write a woman's story for us? And Zelda, really creative, super smart. She was writing back in Alabama, at least, different things like dreamy teenage girls do. And here Zelda can be a free and independent woman, or at least think she can, because she's being asked to write. And I can write and make a little pen money, but of course, Scott isn't going to love that. Scott won't let her have anything in her name. So Zelda will write the story, and then Scott will put his name on it.
No. Okay.
Saying we can make more money that way. I mean, if they're going to pay you, I'm making up figures here, $2, they're going to pay me $200 because I'm the one that's cool here. But at the end of the day, Scott is stealing her work.
Yeah, well, and what you said, like the quote from her review where she's just like, oh, some of the writing in this book seems familiar. So he's clearly already been like inspired by her to a
plagiarism begins at home. All he does, most of his novels, there are absolute hunks of his novels that are simply her fucking diaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm so mad. If you go through, Scott extensively had a few novels, wrote many pieces. And it is interesting how Zelda goes from collaborator for her husband to, oh, you're just going to steal my shit directly and put your name on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uncool, Scott. Not cool. In order to be that kind of couple living it up in New York City, Scott's only gotten his book advance. You've published books. How far does that get you? Right?
No, exactly. Yeah. You got to keep coming up with something new.
You're not coming up with like private jet money. Like that's not the way it happens. And Scott and Zelda are burning through money. So he is stealing her words in life, right? And now in writing. Burning through money. Things progress pretty fast for the couple. In February 1921, Zelda realizes that she's pregnant.
No. Sorry, that was just my instinctive reaction. It's just like, I don't want anything to solidify her relationship to this guy, but here we go.
Solidified. Their daughter, Scotty, is born October 26th, 1921. Okay, here's the thing. Zelda goes into labor. I don't know if you've heard this story, but oh boy, it is going to be recreated 100% in Scott Fitzgerald's next work. Zelda goes into labor and she is on drugs, like wiped out because, right, you're in labor.
Yeah.
And Zelda will talk to Scott because she is on drugs. Everything she says to Scott in the delivery room and in and around that delivery, oh, I hope she's a girl about their daughter. She'll be beautiful and a fool. Scott has a notepad and pen writing down what she says so he can use it in his next fucking novel. Her life is his source material. Zelda is a mom, tricky. She loves Scotty in very much her own way. There's some, because Zelda also is an artist, makes paper dolls, paints and creates paper dolls for her daughter. These paper dolls have actually been published in their own book. They're incredible. But now think about it, 1921, beginning 1922, we have Scott and Zelda now with child. So they move around a lot. They'll live in places a year at a time. Scott is going to keep churning out work, not another novel here, but publications for Saturday Evening Post, Red Book, Esquire, making easy money. These articles are also completely in his wheelhouse, king of the jazz age, but also they're partially Zelda's work, where he gives her no byline or maybe a sub byline. But because Scott is working to make the money, to put the money in the bank, it's taking time away from the novel writing he wants to do. The next novel he will finish is The Beautiful and the Damned. This is where I believe the She'll Be Beautiful and a Fool comes in. The Beautiful and the Damned is a novel. See how much of a repetition we have here. This novel is about the demise of a happy couple who self-destruct because of the drink.
His ideas are not especially sophisticated. He's just like, what will I write a novel about? My exact life? Okay.
Yeah, whatever
like
me and Zelda are doing now. Me and Ginevra, me and Zelda. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Nailed it.
They have this young child now, so how? But I presume they're continuing with their life of drinking and partying.
Oh, 100%. They don't stop. They don't stop any drinking. They don't stop any partying. Let's see. So, Beautiful and the Damned come out. Fitzgerald's big dream is still his great American novel. But essentially, they're spending too much money. They're drinking way too much. Here in 1922, Scott Zelda Baby will move out to Great Neck, Long Island. Great Neck, Long Island is about 30 minutes on a pretty fast drunk ride from Manhattan. At this time, Great Neck, Long Island is mostly a place of mansions and parks. It is very upper crust. These are the creme de la creme of the people. And this area certainly do have people who live in the mansions who are there. You also have a great amount of country houses, big houses that people, snooty tooty people from New York City can drive out to in Long Island for the weekend, for the whatever. 30 minutes away. Here, Scott and Zelda are going to rent the smallest house on the best block. You can see Manhattan across the water. Manhattan, 23 miles away. It's now like 50 minutes by car. But here, Scott Zelda proceed to drunken party it up. Parties last for days. And people from New York City come over to hang out with them. These parties are lousy with celebrities and writers and actresses because guess what else has also happened? Prohibition.
Oh, yeah. So people need to go there for their secret booze.
Correct. So we got a lot of secret booze floating around. If any of that Great Neck, Long Island thing sounds familiar, that is going to be the West Egg, East Egg parallel in The Great Gatsby.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, to your point, he's just writing about himself. So Scott, Zelda party it up. They've got a butler as well. Scott drinks a whole lot of the day, essentially 24-hour party. Let's go ahead and talk about Zelda's family for just a second, because here, young and early, her family wants to come for a visit. That sounds great. They show up. They are horrified. They see a bunch of just drunk people laying around. They show up. Zelda has a black eye and blames it. Oh, I hit the door. Zelda did not hit the door. So not only is Scott lousy with drunk, he is also physically abusing Zelda by this point. And if the family hated him before the wedding and then immediately after the wedding, they really hate him now.
Well, because she's baby.
She's baby.
She's the like beloved little, like everyone adored her, and now she's being treated so horribly. Yeah.
Okay. They like to drink. Prohibition is really getting in the way of that. So advancing into the next location of our story, in the spring of 1924, Scott and Zelda and Baby are going to pick up sticks and go to Europe. They come with $7,000 and 17 suitcases. Like literally pick up sticks, move across. Scott is wanting to work here on his great American novel, The Great Gatsby. This particular section of time is fascinating to me and could be an entire extra 10-hour episode. But here they land in the French Riviera. This is a glittering crowd. In France at that point, it is expat city. The dollar is strong in France. You can come with not a lot of American money to France and live like a king. Scott and Zelda get connected through actually some Montgomery ties that Zelda has to the most glittering couple of that age named Gerald and Sarah Murphy. They are the people to know. They know everyone. Picasso, Cole Porter, every artist, every poet, every writer. Gerald and Sarah Murphy are the epicenter of American expats in Paris. They're the group. Zelda at this point begins to feel a little bit like luggage because, right, Scott is getting the attention, but Scott is not getting attention so much for his writing, but for bad behavior. Even back in Great Neck, Long Island, here in France, most of Zelda's time is spent apologizing for her husband's shitty behavior. She writes a note every morning to the hostess of who had that party that night saying, "I'm sorry he acted so terribly."
Mm-hmm.
So he's an alcoholic. He's also a violent alcoholic. Behaves terribly. And he's that guy. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy at the party, but like, why? Why would you say that? Why would you do that? Scott's drinking so extensively and he'll wake up and not remember any of this crap. And poor Zelda is eternally apologizing for him.
Mm-hmm.
In this 1924 year, Scott is he's working on Gatsby, but he's also drinking. And they're also in the French Riviera, hanging out with because the French Riviera at that time was not the glitzy show place you think of it today. It was a little bit more laid back, but it is vacation place for this crew. Here, Scott, who has actually, fooled around on Zelda a little bit in their marriage. Zelda sitting around home, kind of bored. You're on the French Riviera. Scott is off riding every day. I want to introduce into Zelda's story, Josanne. Josanne is a sexy, handsome French aviator.
Yes, an aviator.
And Josanne and Zelda do meet Josanne likes to buzz over Zelda's house in the French Riviera in his airplane, just like all of her previous boyfriends. She will have a little adulterous thing with Josanne, and her whole set, Sarah and Gerald Murphy, everybody else that's down there at that time, knows something's up because Josanne is on the dock every day with Zelda in her nude bathing suit, reading French novels, right? Whole set knows something's up. Scott doesn't. He's clueless. So Zelda at this point is like, you know what? Scott, I'd like a divorce. This is not, pretty early. They've been married 4 years, but she's like, this isn't what I want. And I'm really sorry, but I would like a divorce. And Scott says, sure, no problem, Zelda. Easy peasy, right? No, Scott does not do that. Scott is pissed and will decide the way to take control over this situation is to physically lock Zelda up in a room for an entire month.
For an entire month.
Locks her in a room for a month.
Yeah.
So she cannot see her sexy, handsome French aviator lover, leaving her locked in a room. He can cheat all he wants, but she cannot. Sadly for Zelda at this point, she will overdose on pills at this time. Because she's like, can you believe my life has come to this? All I do is apologize to my husband every day. Here comes the switch. Zelda's done. She wants a new role. She wants a new script. The script you gave me 4 years ago, Scott, you haven't held up to that bargain, number one. And number two, I'm not that person anymore. Zelda is resentful. She is uncertain. So what I think happens here in the switch is that baby of the family, Southern Belle, has the world at her feet, has been now for a number of years an emotionally and physically abused spouse. And here is where Zelda turns a little bit passive aggressive. She's been trying sympathy notes for the day after his bad behavior, but you never want a Southern woman to get passive aggressive.
Okay. This is a context where I'm so happy you're the one telling this story.
No, you're done. You're kind of done for when this happens. And this is Zelda, passive aggressive, or is she really a Leo girl? You betray me? I'm not into it. How dare you treat me like that? Zelda realizes at this point, kind of, her fate is her fate. How can she even escape this? She has completely blown off her family and their concerns because Zelda's not even talking to them anymore. Because all they're trying to do is break a little bit of sense through to Zelda like,
yeah.
We don't even like divorce, but will you please just get the fuck out of here? And Zelda can't get the fuck out of there, so she blows them off. And Zelda sort of here accepts her fate in a way that she's going to passive aggressive turn this to, hey, Scott, I played your game for a while. You want to see my game? You want to see what my game looks like, motherfucker? Let me show you. And Zelda will show him the game. What does that game look like? Oh boy. Let's take another break here and come back and talk about Zelda putting her stakes in the ground.
We'll be right back after this break.
The war is over, and both sides lost. Kingdoms were reduced to cinders, and armies scattered like bones in the dust. Now the survivors claw to what's left of a broken world, praying the darkness chooses someone else tonight. But in the Shadow Dark, the darkness always wins. This is old school adventuring at its most cruel. Your torch ticks down in real time, and when that flame dies, something else rises to finish the job. This is a brutal rules-light nightmare with a story that emerges organically based on the decisions that the characters make. This is what it felt like to play RPGs in the 80s, and man, it is so good to be back. Join the Glass Cannon podcast as we plunge into the Shadow Dark every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/theglasscannon, with the podcast version dropping the next day. See what everybody's talking about and join us in the dark.
Welcome to the realms of peril and glory. Explore the mechanically magical vistas of Vale, the paranormal mysteries of liminal London, and the cyberpunk chaos of Cyborg. Be awed by our incredible guests from familiar shows like Oxventure and No Rolls Barred. Search Realms of Peril and Glory to find out more.
Fuck off, Scott. And we're back. Zelda is unleashing her Montgomery, Alabama, Southern Belle passive aggressiveness. And how does
I'll show you the game, man. I played by your rules for a long time, and I'm no longer playing by your rules. So Zelda, here, still in the French Riviera, does find some way to get more and more desperate in her trying to escape the fate of being the princess in the tower. She's paying less attention to Scott, more attention to other people, more attention into her own personal investing into herself. And Scott, of course, is broken by all of this, broken by Zelda's affair, and will continue to mistreat Zelda for the rest of his life.
I want to just pause for a moment because he brought back he's writing her those letters early on about you're the princess in the tower. And now she's a princess in the tower, but in the like trapped in the tower way.
Right, Brodon, you locked her in a room for a month.
She literally, princess in the tower, not a romantic thing. No.
She's not going to write apology notes for you anymore, you motherfucker. You locked her in a room for the month. So October 1924, The Great Gatsby is finished-ish. It's sent back across the pond to America to the publisher. Zelda at this point, because they're working on the novel rewrites, blah, blah, blah. Great Gatsby, again, for the third novel in a row, is just stealing parts of Zelda's life. Ginevra's life, the rich girls don't marry poor boys comes back into this one. And by 24, like the Oracle of the Jazz Age is grown up. Scott's 30, right? He's not the young guy he was. The flapper mystique at this point is over, at least as far as his career. He's changed. His story has changed. Scott is now writing Zelda's life, and their story has changed. This is not the marriage we started out with. The audience also that Scott started out with is kind of gone too. We've changed in those years. Great Gatsby does not sell well in Scott's lifetime. Now it sells, 300,000 copies a year. It's been made into 5 films. It's required high school reading. He did find his fame, just not in his lifetime. When The Great Gatsby is released, it has really good reviews, but really disappointing sales. I don't even know how to get into this because this is a whole nother story unto itself. So I'm going to try to TLDR it here. Zelda Scott and Baby are spending 1925, the spring of 1925 in Paris. Scott is disappointed because the book is not a success. Scott will meet another American expat living in Paris. You might know him because he's pretty high up on my God, I can't stand you either list, Ernest Hemingway.
God damn it. Yep.
Oh, boy. Okay, that was exactly the right response. And so what you need definitely for alcoholic Scott Fitzgerald is to meet alcoholic Ernest Hemingway. They're buddies. They get to know each other. Fitzgerald's pissed because Ernest Hemingway is far more successful commercially, but the two of them hang out in the cafes. They drink a lot every day. The other thing you want to know is that Ernest Hemingway hates Zelda. Ask me why.
Why does he hate Zelda?
Because she sees right through all of his asshole bullshit. She's the first one. Hemingway comes in, right? I'm so big and macho and all that other crap. And Zelda's like, who are you fucking talking to? I'm the belle of Alabama. I see through you. You bluff and bluster doesn't even like bug me. Which is what also Ernest tries to come on to Zelda, and Zelda turns him down. Like, if you were the last man on earth, I still wouldn't fuck you. Get away from me. So there happens developing at this time this really weird triangle, love-hate triangle between Zelda, Scott, and Ernest. A completely alternative story, but Scott looks up to Ernest. Ernest hates Zelda. Oh, also, for some reason, I don't know, Scott thinks it's appropriate to go to Ernest because I guess Zelda said, like, you're not hung that well. And so one day drinking, Scott and Ernest go to the bathroom, and Scott's like, hey, Ernest, bro, can you check out the size of my junk and tell me I'm okay?
Literal dick measuring contest. Okay.
Dick measuring contest. Ernest is like, yeah, buddy, you're fine. I don't really think he was fine, but whatevs. What else happens for Zelda and Scott in Paris at this point? They're chilling with Gertrude Stein, Picasso, Miro, Matisse, Wangri, Gerald and Sarah Murphy. The thing to know about Gerald Murphy, he's loaded back from family money, living it up with Sarah over in Paris, but Gerald Murphy is also a very talented painter. So where Zelda is beginning her, I can't believe you're hanging out with Ernest Hemingway every day, Scott. That's dumb. Zelda is going to begin to learn how to paint from Gerald Murphy, 1925. This is the first place really where her attention is going 100% of the time that is not her husband. Zelda will begin learning how to paint here. Color composition, how to mix, how to do figures. Gerald Murphy's going in real slow, but giving Zelda, private lessons. Zelda's going to paint up into the day of her death. That's one of the places her attention goes.
I love that she has something. I love that she's got a passion.
Oh, she's going to develop quite a few. Her art really is her solace. The second thing Zelda is doing is writing. Her most productive periods of writing are from 1925 to 1934. Where is Zelda writing from? Mainly mental institutions. She'll have a No, hold on. Your face on that was beautiful. She will have another period of creative writing from 1940 to 1948. The other way, Zelda, because again, she's like, Scott, you put your attention everywhere else. So can I. Zelda will rediscover her love for ballet and will begin training daily with a very famous ballerina of the day who used to dance with the Ballet Russe. Zelda goes every day, trains 16 hours a day, becomes so good that Zelda is offered a solo starring role in ballet in an Italian company. Probably can't do it in Paris. And remember, Zelda's older here by this point.
Yeah, she's like, late 20s at this point?
Born in 1900, so she's 25.
Yeah,
26. Yeah. This is a very late time in life to become a professional ballet dancer. Mm-hmm. So think about the amount that Zelda has to work and train to be offered a solo performer position in an Italian company. Mm-hmm. She's pretty good. And Scott's like, sure, babes, that's fine. Go run away to the ballet, right? No, Scott does not say that.
No. Of course.
Scott does not say that, but the switch in Zelda has happened, and she's going to refocus so hard that her refocusing sort of becomes obsessive. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you'd classify it. I got a lot to say. When people are like, Zelda's crazy, Zelda was not crazy. Zelda got real tired of compensating for a delinquent, abusive, alcoholic husband. More on that later. Zelda gets obsessive about everything she's doing here. And Scott doesn't really like that. So let's go ahead and talk about 1927. Scott has now published 3 novels. not too moderate success. He's writing articles, writing magazines. But in 1927, which you can see it at the time, silent movies are going away. We're going to talkies at this point. And if you're talking, you need a writer for the script. So Scott is going to be like, hell, why not go to Hollywood? I can write in Hollywood just as cool. Oh boy, I get so mad for Zelda. Oh, Team Zelda forever. So 1927, Hollywood. Oh boy, here go Scott and Zelda to Hollywood. Now, if you thought New York was fun, imagine Hollywood in 1928, right? They're getting wooed about the time. They are given a lunch. Scott and Zelda are at the home of Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford. Their home is called Pickfair. It is the most enormous place you'd ever want to be at that time in Hollywood. If you've made it to Pickfair, you have arrived. You'd think Scott would be happy to be there with Zelda. He is not. Scott looks across the table and sees a 17-year-old actress at this lunch.
No. Okay.
Her name is Lois Moran. Turns out she looks an awful lot like a young Zelda. Scott is head over heels. And Scott will pretty much obsessively spend this trip telling his wife Zelda, did you see that, Lois? No, this is the part that's just going to blow your head off. Zelda, that Lois, can you imagine? She's an actress and she's so brave and courageous for wanting to make her own name and her own money. I may have found a way to like goodbye Earl Scott Fitzgerald off this earth.
This is like you just I don't know, slip something in his drink when he's drunk, and then he's oh no, he's dead. Oh, how that happened? I don't know. Poison. I don't know that.
Everything Scott has derailed in Zelda. You have to be my wife. You can't make your own money. I will steal your work. Why do you have all these Here he's like, Lois. She's everything I want a girl to be, which is all Zelda's been trying to be for years and years. And here Scott is like bumping her up. Scott will go visit Lois without Zelda. Lois is in the company of her mother, but as you would be, Zelda's pissed. Like, you have given me crap for all these years about your struggle to support me. You have to work this hard to support me, and this is what you go for? And one of the very most classic, this is my top 10 favorite fucking Zelda Fitzgerald moves. She is so mad. She is so mad. She is going to dump all her clothes in a bathtub and burn them.
Yes.
Fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
So mad.
Yeah.
The other thing Zelda will do is on the train back from Hollywood to Delaware, which is where they're going. She throws Scott, when he sold This Side of Paradise, bought Zelda this very expensive watch. She throws it out the window of the train. Done. Unsurprisingly, Scott is not too much of a success in Hollywood. Let me give you a little bit of the inside dish on here. He will fight with Constance Talmadge, who is the actress he's writing a script for. And she's like, go. I don't need, you need me more than I need you, my dude. You don't argue with the star of the movie, right? Scott bails out of Hollywood, failure, kicked out of Hollywood. Scott and Zelda are going to go back to Delaware, where, whoa, guess who comes to visit? Lois Moran.
I was going to say,
invites his teenage girlfriend to their new house.
Yeah.
They're in Delaware for a little while. That's fine. They're going to end up going back to Paris. Now here, Zelda, painting, dancing, writing. But the other thing that Zelda does here, love it, is finds kind of a whole new set of friends. If Scott can go get his dick looked at by Ernest Hemingway in the bathroom, think about Paris, avant-garde. Gay and queer are a thing. You have an entire, vulgar women. The entire set of lesbians in the 20s and lesbians from, 1900 on, early 1900s in Paris Romaine Brooks, Natalie Barney, Juana Barnes, all these progressive women who are sapphic. They paint art and write and have this whole circle. They make this wonderful magazine. They go have sapphic dances in this temple of Artemis in the backyard of Natalie Barney's apartment. It's just amazing. Like, if you are a lover of women, this is the best time to be a lesbian in Paris in this group. Legendary.
Yeah.
So Zelda, in the group she's been in, of course, you can imagine, wait, all these women are so nice and so soft, and they accept my art and my writing, and they like to see it and talk about it. And we're all sharing this collaborative, creative space like women do in this community. Scott says, "Oh, babe, I love your new friends," right? No, he does not. At this point, Scott is like, psh, now I know what's wrong. It doesn't have anything to do with me, Zelda. It's because you're a lesbian. You have all these lesbianic tendencies, and he's mad about it, which, honestly, these tendencies in Zelda do pop and manifest from this point on, but I think this is Scott counteracting because both Scott and Zelda are worried about his sexuality. This comes up because there's rumors going around about Scott that perhaps he isn't playing on the absolutely heterosexual team, and Zelda's heard about it, and she's a little bit mad. So remember, when Scott loses control, he's going to want to gain control over the person that's making him lose control. Very, very, very sadly for Zelda, Sarah Fitzgerald, this leads to her first hospitalization. For Scott, looking at this picture, she dances obsessively. She arts obsessively. She's hanging out with a bunch of dykes. I'm so mad about it. Scott's going to put her into an institution because she's not doing what Scott wants her to do. Zelda, if you thought didn't really like being locked up in a room for a month on the French Riviera, Zelda doesn't really like being locked up in a mental institution. Her mental state will deteriorate. Southern Belle on a passive-aggressive streak possibly can be seen as irrational behavior. Zelda comes to Paris. Nobody knows what to do with her. She don't talk like them. She talks like she's from South Alabama, which she does, and she talks real fast. She uses a lot of colloquialisms. People are like, what are you? So imagine Southern, exuberant, sassy girl who talks real fast and uses a lot of colloquialisms showing up in these European mental institutions.
Yeah.
They think she's off her rocker, but I don't think she's off her rocker. I think she is just doing what she does. But here Zelda gets applied with the label of a schizoid personality. This schizophrenia, schizo personality diagnosis essentially was the thing that they would apply to any woman that wasn't fitting into the basket their husband wanted to put them in. To add insult to injury, this happens every time. Zelda will go to an institution, and once they get used to her natural quirks, doctors are like, well, shit, maybe you just don't like the basket you've been put into. Okay, I'm working this out with you, Zelda. Cool. And so the doctors will type, give their evaluations back to Scott like, I don't know, man. Because Zelda doesn't hold anything. Do you know my husband's a drunk? Do you know he does this? Like, Zelda's coming in with her side of the story.
Yeah.
Every time doctors report Zelda's condition progress, Scott comes in and he's like, no, that's not what's happening here. I'm going to tell you what to do, doctor, and I want my advice you to take so you can run Zelda's treatment.
What do we know anything about what treatment they're up to in like European mental institutions of the 1920s, 30s? Is this like electroshock time?
I'm so glad you asked. It's not great. It's not great. Let me continue on here. So Zelda, bless her heart, is at a disadvantage in these situations. She's Southern. She has a distinctive style of speech. We get it perfectly, but Europe doesn't get it. So when doctors don't know what to do, they see her as aloof and distant, which is a completely distinct difference from how everyone else who's ever known her, from knee-high to a grasshopper, so different. All of the people who know Zelda call her warm and loyal, and she's got grace under pressure, and she's so kind. And Zelda will get a handful of good doctors through a whole bunch of crappy ones. And the good doctors are like, yeah, your husband's an alcoholic, and it sure would improve your marriage and communication if he quit drinking. So here's the problem. Doctors approach Scott like, hey, maybe you should quit drinking. We think Zelda will improve if you quit drinking. And as soon as a doctor goes to Scott like, hey, maybe you should quit your drinking and you could fix this, he's going to yank Zelda out of that place and put her in a new place. Scott, for this section of time, the next few years, doesn't want to live with Zelda, doesn't want to have anything to do with her. He would like to work a lot to make money to complain about how much he's paying to have her babysat by other people. Why? Scott doesn't want to impede his drinking. Scott doesn't want to impede his fucking around, and a wife gets in the way of both of those things. Zelda, in this point, to answer your question, is not lobotomized, but she does suffer through an immense amount of treatments. There's a bunch of electroshock therapy. There's some weird kind of drugs they're putting her on in ways that through every institution Zelda goes into, she is put through more severe treatment. So if she was really okay walking in, treatment in Europe is weird right now. They're just throwing things at the wall, right? Maybe this will work. Maybe this won't work. Let's go ahead and try it on live human people to see how it goes. It's bad.
Mm-hmm. What this is making me think of is Britney Spears, when her family forced her into psychiatric treatment.
Yes.
They were putting her on lithium and stuff. Like, I just feel like you go in there, they give you this treatment, and you come out worse than you were before because these treatments are not appropriate for what you're actually dealing with.
I think Zelda was exuberant and lovely and not at all crazy, and her time in the finest loony bins all through Europe, because her husband just needed to hide her away, probably sent her down a road that she would not have otherwise have been. And even though Scott's got her locked up, Princess in the Tower, right? His favorite thing to do is write her letters and bitch at her about how much money she's costing him. And Zelda will write back like, dude, I'm a painter, I'm a dancer, I'm a writer. I can make money, you arrogant asshole. Get me out of this fancy summer camp where I can actually do you some good. Why do you have me locked up here? There's a fantastic if you like horror stories of a marriage, the entire transcript of Scott and Zelda, because he'll come to visit occasionally with a doctor. The entire transcript of the two of them talking through is like the worst can this marriage be saved ever. They're not on the same plane. And the doctor here is moderating this thing between the two of them. That whole transcript is well worth your time if you want to be really, really upset. So Zelda, not ever really going to get out, but she will behave well enough to get some privileges in these places. This is one of the top 10 favorite stories about Zelda. I want you to see a little bit of Elle Woods in this one. Zelda does get some paper to write and a pen. Small victories. It's in 1932. She's been institutionalized for like 6 years, like all kinds of different places. 1932, Zelda in 4 weeks will crank out what is her first novel called Save Me the Waltz. Her novel, Save Me the Waltz, will, believe it or not, because she's Zelda Sarah Fitzgerald, use all of her own life material and all of the material of her hospitalizations and her life story. Gosh, wonder where she learned that from. Guess who's MAD? Scott's pissed because Zelda writes this, bypasses Scott, and just sends it over to Scribner. And they're like, this is fantastic. Holy cats. Scott finds out about this and he's like, what did you do? You bypassed me. You went right to my publisher and you've written a novel with all the crap that I had been writing in the current novel I'm working on. And what? You did it. Okay, think about how long Scott takes to work on his dumbass novels. Zelda writes this in 4 weeks. And he's like, when did you? I mean, I just gave you paper and pen privileges a month ago. And she's like, yeah, that's all it took. I just needed 4 weeks. Like it's hard.
Yes.
Like it's hard. This sends Scott off. He is furious. He's so mad when she sends it to his editors. His editors come back to Zelda like, hey, we love this. We're going to publish this. Scott at this point is like, psh, you can publish it only after I rewrite and edit it.
Oh, Scott.
Fuck off. Scott Fitzgerald, right? Keep in mind, it takes him 9 years to write his last novel, Tender is the Night. Tender is the Night is all about a patient and the doctor and records. And Tender is the Night is all about being hospitalized and working with the doctor and mental illness and this couple going through it. Scott has just been building up record after record after dialogue since 1927 when she goes away to spend 9 years writing this book that she's like, I did in 4 weeks. Like it's hard. Save the Waltz is released heavily edited by Scott Fitzgerald. He will release Tender is the Night in 1934. It is, when it's released, an outdated book. It's a book of the Depression era because it's taken him 9 bloody years to write it. So the book that probably would have been a hit 5 years before is not a hit in 1934. The novel will fail. Scott is devastated and, wow, drinking more than ever. So 1934, he was born in 94. So we have Scott now at 40. His drinking has escalated so much that it's not unusual to have 30 beers a day.
Oh my gosh.
A quart of gin before breakfast.
Yeah.
Just before breakfast. Like he wakes up and drinks liquor with breakfast, which is, I don't know, one of the things they tell you is you might have a drinking problem.
It's a warning sign. It's a red flag.
Yeah, if you're drinking at 7 a.m., Scott will say, life for me ended when Zelda and I crashed. What he writes from this point, the crack up, he's got a 3-part thing in Esquire. He's still trying to write because he's got to support himself and the mental institution. And don't forget, Scott's still a father of a girl. They have a daughter.
Yeah.
We haven't really talked about Scotty at all since she was born back in 1926, right? Scott, of course, in his dream, holds himself up to be an exemplary father. I think that's kind of hard when you're a drunk and you've committed your wife to a mental institution. Scotty is not with Scott. Scotty has nannies and boarding schools, and Scotty will stay often with Scott's business manager and his wife, who raised Scotty more than Scott or Zelda ever will. This is Harold Ober and his wife, Anne. Scott at this time, though, even though other people are watching his children, what does he like to do? Write letters to them about how they're doing it wrong.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And admonishment and shame. Like, he's looking at Scott like a mini Zelda, and he somehow doesn't want Scotty to end up like his wife, even though I think he's kind of responsible for most of the decisions in this play so far. Let's go ahead and get to the end of Scott. Can we kill him off?
Please.
Scott had to die. In September 1936, there's a New York Evening Post article that will call Scott Fitzgerald a failed writer. He is sodden and a despairing alcoholic, a famous drunk, washed up and out of fashion. This devastates Scott. Can you imagine how fragile his ego has been all the way through this damn story?
Yeah.
So 1936, man, he's crushed and drunk, and Zelda's still committed, and he doesn't really have to worry about Scotty. And so Scott's like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and try to resurrect my Hollywood dream. Because we're almost 10 years on down the road. Movies are a real thing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Scott picks up sticks to try to make his attempt in movies again. Becomes sober here. Sober enough for Harold Ober to organize some kind of return for him. Cool thing. Love it. There's an infamous and famous hotel in Hollywood called the Garden of Allah. Scott is going to stay here at this time. This is not a great place for a recovering alcoholic to be. You have stars there. It's their secret hideaway. They have legit bar carts that come out to the pool. It is hedonism galore. But Scott here working hard, pushing himself to stay sober. He is trying to write himself into kind of becoming a new character. He wants to be a Hollywood screenwriter. He will meet a Hollywood gossip columnist named Sheila Graham. Sheila is, to sum it up, an English rose of a girl and fresh off a divorce. And she is part of this trio of syndicated gossip columnists, including her two contemporaries, Luella Parsons and Hedda Hopper. Sheila Graham is the youngest of them, though. And Sheila Graham is a dead ringer for Zelda before Scott broke Zelda.
Yeah.
Within a few weeks, Scott and Sheila Graham are living it up, having dinner, loving it up. Scotty will come out to visit Zelda and Scott's daughter, and Sheila's like, oh, honey, you have to eat your peas. Sheila Graham sort of taking on this maternal thing. Sheila and Scott stay together for a while. I think it's very uncool. You're bringing your daughter into your affair. But Sheila sort of reaches out. But Sheila sort of realizes here that Scott has no intention of divorcing Zelda. Zelda gives him a reason to gripe about everything that's ever gone on wrong in his life, that he doesn't have to take accountability for that, right? Sheila Graham will love Scott for better or worse until he dies, but she's always going to be his mistress. She hates that term. She's like, what I'm doing is very noble for you. I help you with your work. Okay, this thing, like when Scott was writing The Great Gatsby, Zelda, because she's an artist, would draw his characters over and over until her fingers bled, so he could see the people he was writing about. Sheila's doing some of the same thing here in being his muse, his collaborator, his everything. He's a vile man. In Hollywood, Scott is working. He'll work on a few movies here, A Yank in Oxford. He's not credited for that one. He will work on a film called Three Comrades, which is a minor hit. This provides Scott's first and only film credit. MGM at the time is going to give him a raise. He'll write a play for Miss Joan Crawford called Infidelity. But that movie, I'm not surprised if you haven't heard of it. It's never been made because of a censorship barrier.
Okay.
Scott's going to find a house on the beach, providing a little bit more quiet and respite than the drunken, hedonistic times of the Garden of Allah. Also, it has cheaper rent. Scott, because his movies aren't getting made and he's not as successful as he wants to be, becomes very disappointed and what? Falls off the wagon. So much gin, so much beer, so much whiskey. Scott is loaned out to David O. Selznick for Gone with the Wind. But Scott's mad because in writing that script, he's only able to use dialogue from the novel. He can't make up any of his own. So Scott has that job for about 2 weeks where he sobers up and tries it again. But once that job is gone, what's Scott's new plan? Gin and juice. Just gonna drink all day long, every day. His lover, muse mistress, Sheila Graham, does not drink. By the end of the year, Scott is released from his MGM contract. They do not renew him. He is brought in eventually to polish the script for Gone with the Wind. But by this time, Scott has a complete change in his personality. He gets in terrible fights. Oh, God, there's wrestling over a loaded gun. Terrible, terrible, terrible. He and Sheila are fighting. Scott is unemployed. Scott is drinking. Also writing his novel loosely based on Irving Thalberg called The Last Tycoon. Irving Thalberg was the boy wonder producer in Hollywood. He's got the Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to gold. Irving Thalberg was married to super starlet actress of the time, Norma Shearer. Scott, because he's not working for the studios, will begin work on The Last Tycoon, so inspired by his time in Hollywood with Irving Thalberg and Norma Shearer. He gets through about 7,000 pages that isn't actually long enough to do much with. It is on December 1st, 1939. There's a nurse that's been hired to watch his drinking, to kind of babysit him all day. He's going to assault the nurse. He will pull a loaded gun out on Sheila Graham. Sheila Graham at this point is like, fuck you, dude, and calls the police and leaves Scott to die. I'm done. I've had enough with all of this. Scott will beg Sheila to come back in the way that all abusive people beg you to come back. Scott and Sheila reunite. For a little while, they're going to visit Mexico. Scott manages to stay sober. That's a condition of him getting back together with Sheila. He'll continue to write. Scott will suffer a mild heart attack in November of 1940 and move into Sheila Graham's place, where Zelda still locked up. While recuperating at Sheila Graham's, Scott Fitzgerald will suffer a massive heart attack December 21st, 1940, and die blessedly at the age of 44 years old.
And the world is a better place.
You try to elicit a little bit of sympathy for Scott. I'm always like, find the kinder place to come from. You get his childhood, but you also get he's kind of been an ass from the beginning, right? Propped up in a bunch of ways and so controlling and manipulative. I feel so bad for Zelda. Scott is buried in St. Paul, Minnesota. Zelda is too ill to attend because now she's in a different mental institution back in the States. Scott's going to pull her out of all the European ones and just loop her up in the States there. He'll occasionally visit during that time. They will take a few trips together, maybe just a day trip somewhere when Zelda's doing well enough, because now she's been locked up for 14 years. There is a Florida trip they go on. They're always kind of trying to restart, but it always stops because Zelda gave up that ghost in 24, right? She's done. Zelda does not attend his funeral. Fun thing also to know, Sheila Graham will write a book about her years spent with Scott Fitzgerald if you're interested. It is a book released in 1958 called Beloved Infidel. It was later adapted as a movie. I have this book. It's fantastic.
Okay.
As for Zelda, Scott's out. 1940, we've got Zelda dying in 1948. She has 8 more years to live, but remarkably, if you can imagine, Zelda will spend this next 8 years in and out of hospitals, but compared to her previous years, Zelda comes alive. She's a little damaged, but she's still painting daily, and she is writing. She is flourishing here. She does get into this weird kind of religious manifestation zeal thing here, where the tone of her paintings turns biblical, or maybe Mother Mary, a lot of different biblical scenes. She's not doing flowers and landscapes necessarily like she was before. Scotty, her daughter, will get married. Zelda will have a granddaughter. Zelda's art will be exhibited in not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 exhibitions in Montgomery during this time. The Montgomery Museum of Art does have my very favorite Zelda painting on their wall. Gorgeous. They do also have the original paper dolls and watercolors Zelda painted all those years ago for Scotty. She's in and out of places. She does go home a lot, still the baby, loved by her family, but through her years and oftentimes abusive treatment from all those years and just the destruction of the swath of Scott, you'd hope that in 1940, when Zelda is widowed, that she really does embrace her best life, but mentally she's not exactly there because of the damage those years have done. But living the best life she's lived in a very long time, my poor sweet Zelda Sarah Fitzgerald summer child will perish in 1948 when she is in an institution with 8 other women in a midnight fire.
The institution burns down or catches on fire?
Burns down. Upper floor catches on fire, and there are bars on the window. And so there is no escape. Zelda is identified only by her dental records and a half-burnt slipper.
Ugh. And she was born in 1900, so she's 48 when she
Correct,
dies.
48 years old. Oh, Zelda, Zelda, Zelda. That is most of the story of Zelda Fitzgerald. I do want to, if I can I go just a little bit more?
Please do, yeah.
Because I want to talk about the crazy thing. Because when people talk about Zelda, they're like, oh, Zelda was crazy. Zelda was not crazy. There are a lot of, male researchers and historians who are very much pro Scott Fitzgerald, where it's real easy to throw the Zelda was crazy blame. I think you find the women writers who are covering Zelda have a not masculine point of view at all. Me as a lady, loving my girl Zelda as a lady, I think Scott made her crazy. Scott's the one who does it. I want to compare it a little bit for any of my Shakespearean people to the Scottish king and Lady M, his wife. I don't think that Lady M is all that terrible. I think she realizes she's married to a weak and feckless husband and somebody has to do it for him. I think that was Zelda for a long time until that wasn't Zelda. I see a lot of parallels there. I've got a piece that's wonderful published in 2013 by Heather Lane Tolley. The particular article is entitled Zelda Wasn't Crazy: How What You Don't Know About Fitzgerald Tells Us Something About Crazy Women Then and Now. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there are a few key paragraphs that I think are really interesting here. Quoting the author, crazy is a gendered trope. Arguably, calling women crazy is the most commonly used strategy for stereotyping and devaluing us. It's also a label that functions to stigmatize mental illness. Consider Yashi Ali's A Message to Women from a Man, You Are Not Crazy. Ali explores gaslighting, a subtle process of emotional manipulation regularly used to convince women that our reaction is an overreaction. As Ali notes, whether gaslighting is conscious or not, it produces the same result. It renders some women emotionally mute. Scott's biography regularly depicts Zelda as crazy. Even city tours of the Appalachian tourist destination, Asheville, North Carolina, feature a drive past the Highland Mental Hospital historical site. Zelda will die in a fire at that facility. Whether you'll hear that she was chained to her bed or clutching a pair of ballet slippers depends on which tour guide does the telling. The official medical report suggests she was awaiting electroshock therapy and could have escaped had she not been sedated. A retrospective reading of Zelda's biography reveals what we might understand as gaslighting, but it demonstrates something more insidious too. Really getting to it here. Stories of Zelda's fragility and ultimately her demise leave out one critical fact. Here it is, nailing it down right here. There is no F. Scott without Zelda. This historical record is clear. Scott's stories relied on Zelda's own writing, but Scott's role in Zelda's crazy is conspicuously absent from public memory. The crazy Zelda that's emerged in our popular imagination is as much Scott's making as The Great Gatsby itself. That is in and of itself part of F. Scott's legacy. His work depended on Zelda's silence. Aren't you mad? Don't you want to go protest in the streets for Zelda with me?
I want to go to whatever historical site there is that is in tribute to F. Scott Fitzgerald, be it a museum, a statue, I don't know, and just burn it down is my feeling right now.
Please come to Alabama. That's where I live now. There is a Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald Museum that is the home they lived in when they lived in Montgomery. Fascinating place.
Half of it. I'll burn the Scott half of it and keep the Zelda half of it.
They have renovated the rooms upstairs and have built out 2 suites. So you can actually spend the night in the home that they lived in. There's a Scott suite and a Zelda suite.
Burn down the Scott suite. Yeah.
I mean, don't tell anybody out. We're not going to commit arson, Anne.
I would never do that, but I'm making a booking now. And if it burns later, that's a weird coincidence.
Sir, I know we've gone on so long. Can I do a few more paragraphs? Because I get so riled up when people are like, Zelda was crazy. And I'm like, stop and sit. Stop and sit.
You have to. I want to just say, because it's just reminded me so much of so many other stories I've done on the podcast, probably other stories you've done in your podcast, sure, where it's just in order for this quote unquote great man of history, if you're writing a biography about someone like F. Scott Fitzgerald, it depends on Zelda being crazy. You can't make him great unless you make her crazy. And if you accept that she was not, then you have to reconfigure how you think about him. And so many people are not willing to do that work.
I think Scott's the crazy one. Zelda was the brilliant one, the talented one, the exuberant one. But yes, you got to make her crazy and you got to shut her up. A few more paragraphs from this, because you hear schizophrenia ballied about when we talk about Zelda. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt that many of Zelda's behaviors violated societal norms of the day, specifically prevailing gender expectations. As Zelda reveals in a high school journal, I ride boys' motorcycles, chew gum, smoke in public, dance cheek to cheek, drink corn liquor and gin. I was the first to bob my hair, and I sneak out at midnight to swim in the moonlight with boys at Katoma Creek, and then show up at breakfast as though nothing had happened. There was no pinning Zelda in from moment one of her life. Some historical analyses have suggested that Zelda likely experienced bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. It's also plausible that she was affected by consuming copious amounts of toxic industrial alcohol and bootleg moonshine. The experimental, psychological, and medical care she received also had lasting impacts. But retrospective diagnoses of Zelda as mentally ill ignore the social and intimate context of Zelda's behavior. According to Zelda biographer Therese Ann Fowler, Zelda did suffer some mental health crisis, depression primarily, and was an uninhibited, uncensored woman who didn't always think before she acted, but she wasn't crazy. Unwise? Sometimes. Insane? No.
I think part of it, like when you're talking about she was being, how she's put in the mental asylums and it's like she's not fitting in this box that Scott wants her to go on. Like, it's just like you're taking this wild, like free spirit, and it's like, why won't she be a Stepford wife? She must be insane. We have to medicate her, where it's just like, that's just never going to be her. And so if you keep trying to put her in this way, like, of course you're going to like, anyone would, anyway, it's just like, what was she like as a person?
He wouldn't be anything without her. And this is just what drives me mad sometimes in romantic relationships. Scott is drawn to Zelda because she is golden and light comes from her and she's beautiful and he loves all those things about her. And that's why he loves all those things. So as soon as he marries her, let's get rid of all those things.
Crush all those things. It's like,
Correct.
that's, well, you see that, like in so many, like you talk about this in your podcast too, but like contemporary Hollywood relationships where there's like an amazing woman and she has some like Cardi B and Offset, where it's just like he loves her. And then it's just like, then he's mad that she's successful. He's mad that she's creative. He's mad that she's artistic. It's like, but that's what you loved about her. It's like men love to take a woman like that and squish them down instead of just marrying somebody who already is very small. It's like the motivation to want to take a woman who's like full of life and just crush her.
Crush. So that is my fuck off Scott Fitzgerald part of the story. Long live Zelda Sayre. Forever and ever and ever. What a sweet summer child hero. She will never fail to fascinate me. I am obsessed with Zelda.
Well, all that I can do to offer is to include her on the very prestigious Scandaliciousness scale of the Vulgar History podcast. With your assistance, there are 4 categories, and we'll see where she lands. And this will be an interesting discussion, I think. The first category, and this is all like a 0 to 10, with 10 being top marks, 0 being lowest marks, is scandaliciousness. How scandalous was she seen in her time and era?
I mean, can I go higher than 10? She is scandalous growing up in Montgomery. She's scandalous in New York City. She's scandalous at Great Neck. Scott immortalizes a lot of that scandal somehow within his novels. Zelda, of course, took a load off scandal when she was institutionalized, but then even she was still a scandal because Scott is talking shit about her to all the expats and all his friends. Scandalousness, I don't know, 14 out of 10. Off the
I can go as high as 10, but spiritually much more. Because I think, and that's just who she was. Like what you were describing, just like the airplane pilot zooming down to see her. Like she has 19 boyfriends every day. Like she's like, but wearing pants, like bobbing her hair, like everything. And then the wild child jazz age era, and then even being put away in the mental asylum, which is not her choice, but like that's a level of scandal. Like throughout her life, she was never not scandalous.
Well, you can imagine baby girl who has the world in her hands, right? She has always been the center of attention anywhere. Scandal off the charts. She loves that kind of attention. Again, only to have to get that script from Scott. And I still think she tried to be as scandalous as she could be because girl couldn't help it. That's just who she was. I'm an attention
the aviator, the French aviator, like she's finding opportunities.
Oh yeah. But Scott, because he cheats on her all the time, but puts her under this, you absolutely cannot cheat. You're not allowed to leave the house without me. I'll lock you in that room again. God, he's such a bad bastard.
So the next category is scheminess. And I think we touched on this a bit. Like, that's not her vibe. Her vibe is just like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do what I want. Like, she's not coming up with schemes. That's just not who she is.
No. And he kind of put her in a position where she couldn't do much. She was a little schemy in that time where she is trying to claim some of her own independence with her art, with her dancing, with her writing. What? Like it's hard? That was a little schemy. Like Scott's been working a long time on a thing, and she's like, yeah, I wrote a novel in like a week, buddy. Come on.
Yeah.
Schemy, that trading fraternity pin for the maybe, but Zelda's a Leo. She doesn't have a lot of schemy or manipulative in her heart. She does have self-preservation, but not scheminess to create evil ends for other folks. Does that make sense?
It does. I would give her like some points, not a lot of points. I'm thinking like a 2 or a 3.
2, 3,
like
that's kind of where I'm going on my number. Not off the chart, certainly on the chart, but not anywhere high ranking.
There's a bit that, I mean, just the writing the novel in 4 weeks, like she knew what that would do to him. Like that's...
Let's go ahead and call it 3. 3 is the magic number maybe on that one.
Let's go with 3. So the next category, I feel like I know what you're going to say, but we'll talk through it, which is significance. Her significance to
10.
To you personally, but also to history in general. 100%. And like you're saying, like F. Scott Fitzgerald's, like his books are so well known, good or bad, but like they would not exist without her. Like,
without Zelda, there is no F. Scott. Her significance is huge. Her significance still here today in Alabama is off the chart. She's a big deal.
Yeah.
10, no question.
Yeah, I feel like this is an absolute 10. F. Scott's significance -10, minus 5,000. Not that we're scoring him. He doesn't deserve it. And then the final category is what we call on this podcast the sexism bonus. This is like giving people points for how much did the patriarchy and sexism, and in this case, like a shitty husband, how much did this hold her back? How much more could she have done without being trapped in a mental asylum? Like if she had been able to publish more under her name, like on a scale of 0 to 10, how much?
I mean, 10, anything Zelda tried to do, Scott, in this case, the patriarchy, just shit all over it. Like Zelda even had a exhibition of her paintings in, I want to say 34 in New York City. And he shit all over that. He shit all over her novel and had to rewrite it, which, you know, the original version, her language is kind of flowery, but it is amazing, just word for word, how much he is stealing from her. If your patriarchy in this particular question can be described as F. Scott Fitzgerald, 10. 10.
No, like how much what would her life have been like if he hadn't been there, just pressing his thumb down on all of her aspirations and talents and on her life.
It is interesting to think about what Zelda's life would have been without Scott. I'm certain that she would have married somebody locally in Montgomery who's, you know, her husband might have gone into politics or been a lawyer or something. And she'd maybe have, that wasn't the life she was ever going to be cut out for.
Yeah.
She was
it's
too
true.
big for Montgomery, born to shine.
She would have been unhappy in a different way, I think, being stuck there as some politician. Because then she would have been put in that box of like, oh, this is going to be harmful to his career or his legal career. If you keep being scandalous, you got to tamp. She would have ended up in a mental asylum that way too, probably.
As souls, humans, people in the world go, I feel like there is just not a box Zelda was ever going to want or be well in. She's too exuberant. She's sunshine. She's sass. She's light. And I will never forgive. Fuck off Scott Fitzgerald for the damage he did to my fellow Alabama Leo girl. May you rot in hell, Scott. Long live Zelda.
Alicia, I mean, this is like...
Have you ever had an episode go on for so long?
I have, and it's always somebody who has a person they want to talk about and they bring it to me. So I'm happy to just like give you the platform to make everybody hate F. Scott Fitzgerald and to make everybody love Zelda. But tell everybody, in case 1 or 2 people don't know who you are and where they can keep up with you, talk about your podcasts and all the things you do.
Of course. My name is Alicia. I do a few podcasts in the world. If you are a fan of a good podcast about bad relationships, may I suggest Trashy Divorces. Trashy Divorces comes out few times a week, always Wednesday and Sunday. My partner, Stacy, and I go through, bad relationships. It's wonderful. It really is a good podcast about bad relationships. You think your relationship might be terrible? Tune in. We're going to make you feel a lot better about your decisions. Taking that trashy brand, which is kind of our universe, no divorce needed. If you are a fan of history and perhaps naughty nobles, and you maybe like to revel in our tales of our betters behaving badly, Trashy Royals is the podcast for you. That comes out on Thursday. I'm going to mention the other podcast that lives in my secret heart of hearts. And I'm not sure, Canadian, if you know about a guy named Dominic Dunn. Dominic Dunn was influential in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s as a producer. He, in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, was a writer for Vanity Fair. So when you see any high-profile criminal trial of that time, Dominic Dunn is the old guy in glasses that's always on the front row. I have a very niche but very well-loved podcast. If you are a friend and fan of Dominic Dunn, you might want to check out a little podcast I make called Done, D-O-N-E, and Done, D-U-N-N-E, Done and Done. It covers Dominic's life, his writing, his criminal trials, as well as a universe of everyone he connected into, and boy, is it fun. If you like high society and or true crime, you will dig Done and Done.
Fantastic. I love the quantity of content that you are providing to people who just love this kind of messy, true story.
It is my delight. I worked in corporate and training and instructional design for many, many, many years, and I can guarantee you, Anne, this is way, way more fun.
Mm-hmm.
How people behave through time is fascinating to me.
It's so fascinating. And I think it's the combination of like what you do in your podcast, what I hope I do in my podcast, is to share these stories of real people, but with the delight of gossip. Like, because that's
how you make history fun.
Oh, exactly. There's people who are like, oh, I don't think I'm interested in history. It's like, well, are you interested in gossip? Because everybody is. It's just like, that's all it is. It's just like messy ass people from the past. They just happen to be in the past.
People have always been messy. Thank the goddess. And again, if you enjoyed this, put on your perspective schedule somewhere to Lula Bankhead, because whoa, baby, she's as vulgar as they come. I adore her.
I love thinking about, I love the fact that I know we're going to do this and just like to learn more about another Alabama gal.
I'm your source for not only Alabama gals, but a whole lot of trash. And thank you so much for inviting me on today. I can't tell you how much fun this was to talk about my favorite girl.
Thank you. I hope you feel like you really got it all off your chest. Like, I too carry around various historical men who I hate, and sometimes you just got to yell about it. And I'm glad I was able to let you do that.
I mean, you want to do a bonus episode? I could go on 10 more hours about Zelda. Like, there are a few things I'm obsessive about in this world. One being Plantagenet and Tudor England. The other really being Zelda Sarah Fitzgerald. So it's been nice to get my kicks out today. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. That was the most fun. I love chatting with Alicia. We have such a good time together. And so, I mean, make sure you're subscribed to her podcasts, Trashy Royals and Trashy Divorces, to get more Alicia in your life, which we all could use, I think. And I have a big announcement. I have big news. So this past Vulgar History's whole history we've always done kind of like a series with a theme, and then we take a break in between, have some in between the seasons episodes, which we're in right now, and then we start a new theme. And so I'm excited to tell you that our new theme kicks off next week. And that theme is going to be the Tudors. We're getting into the Tudor era. We're going to be talking about Anne Boleyn. We're going to be talking about the other 5 of the 6 wives of Henry VIII. We're going to be talking about Henry VIII. and how I hate him. We're going to be talking about historical mysteries like who wrote Shakespeare's plays and who was Bloody Mary. And also, because this is vulgar history and we like to have an expansive exploration of these time periods, we're going to move outside of England as well. What was happening elsewhere in the world at the same time, like such as what was happening in like North America, what was happening over in Asia, what was like, how were the Tudors and English people interacting with the rest of the world, what was going on there. So it's going to be such a good time. There's going to be episodes where I'm joined by Tudor historians and experts, as well as some of my friends who you'll be happy to hear as returning guests as well. There's also going to be a return to Anne solo episodes, which people have sometimes mentioned, that they would like to get those episodes where it's just me talking without a guest. There's going to be plenty of those as well. So I'm really excited. The theme of the season is Fuck Henry VIII. And I think we're all going to have a really good time. So that kicks off next week. And I do want to mention, if you want to stay up to date with all of the happenings of this podcast, but also me and my writing and like events and what's going on, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I do have an email newsletter. So I know not everybody is into social media, not everybody is hype on joining a Patreon, but if you just want to get like a random casual email from me every now and then, you can sign up for my email newsletter, which you can do by going to vulgarhistory.com/news. That's vulgarhistory.com/news. And maybe there's going to be some more news coming out soon, and I'll be announcing it on the newsletter. So that's where you'll hear about it. Anyway, what a time. What a time. Fuck Scott Fitzgerald. Fuck Henry VIII. We're going to have a good time yelling about all of this in our next upcoming series, Vulgar History Tudor Era. Get ready for the new show artwork by our friend Karen Moynihan. We're going to have a good time. So until next time, keep your pants on and your tits out. Vulgar History is researched, scripted, and hosted by Anne Foster. Editor is Christina Lumagi. Theme music is by the Severn Duo. Vulgar History artwork by Karen Moynihan. Social media videos by Magdalena Denson. Transcripts of this podcast are available at vulgarhistory.com by Aveline Malik. You can get early ad-free episodes of Vulgar History by becoming a paid member of our Patreon at patreon.com/AnneFosterWriter. Vulgar History merch is available at vulgarhistory.com/store for Americans and vulgarhistory.redbubble.com for everyone else. Follow us on social media at Vulgar History Pod. Get in touch with me at vulgarhistorypod@gmail.com.
Legendary stories, awe-inspiring sound, and endless adventure. Welcome to the realms of peril and glory. Explore the mechanically magical vistas of Vale, the paranormal mysteries of liminal London, and the cyberpunk chaos of Cyborg. Fall in love with our core cast, or be awed by our incredible guests from familiar shows like Oxventure, Three Black Halflings, and No Rolls Barred. Ignite your imagination and discover the realms of peril and glory today. Go to realmspod.com or search Realms of Peril and Glory wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Brandy Basanti. For the last 15 years, I've starred on one of the most successful reality shows of all time, Storage Wars. On my new show, The Real Reality, my guest and I will reveal the real story of what it's like navigating fame and notoriety. Because it's my show, I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. No filters, no rules, no network executives. And I believe that's what the world wants. Raw, real, authentic, and I'm gonna fucking give it to you. Though success is great, being in the public eye can come at a cost. Oftentimes, what you see on camera is not the real reality. On each episode of my show, we'll sit down with a different notable individual from the world of TV, film, sports, or internet fame. We will explore their unique story, what really happened on and off camera, how becoming famous has truly impacted their lives, and what their vision is for their future. In a world obsessed with celebrity, followers, and subscribers, the true story is often lost or even buried. This show will reveal what really happened. This show will reveal what people really felt. This show will reveal what fame is really like. This is The Real Reality. Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, listeners. We want to tell you about a podcast we love. It's called Rebel Girls, formerly known as Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. It's about real-life women who are changing the world with their courage, creativity, and big, bold ideas. Want to know how Taylor Swift became a superstar? Or hear how Simone Biles became the greatest athlete of all time? From immersive stories to heartfelt interviews to super smart advice, Rebel Girls brings you stories that will get you fired up to become your best self. There are over 400 episodes for you to explore, with new episodes every week. So check it out. Listen to Rebel Girls wherever you get your podcasts. And find us on youtube.com/rebelgirls. And whatever you do, stay rebel.